Hey everyone, hope you're having an amazing day. It's Code Karen. Welcome to r/Am I the A-hole, where we have 3 incredible stories with comments. If you're new to this channel, a sub would be great. Let's jump to the stories. Our first story is, am I the a-hole for being mad my sister tested my boyfriend to see if he would betray me? I, 21 female, have a boyfriend, 22 male, who is super awesome and I love him. We've been dating for 2 years, and it started to get serious, so we decided to meet each other's parents. We went to my parents last week and planned to stay for a few days, but left early. And here's why. From the minute we arrived, my sister, 18, was all over him, physically, and in his personal space. She's already a touchy person, but this was making him very uncomfortable. He tried being polite to her, but finally he told her no, and to please stop making unwanted advances towards him. She kept up the flirtatious behavior, so we stayed for dinner and left the next morning. I was so embarrassed. My sister texted me when we left and said, well, he's pretty loyal. I asked her, what? And she said she was testing him to make sure he was loyal to me. I hate when I read stories of people testing their partners, so I told my boyfriend that my sister thought it was cute to test his loyalty to me, but I had nothing to do with it. He figured something was up, so luckily, he said that he knew I did not put her up to it. So that's the good part. I was super angry with her and told my parents about her testing prank, and they said they saw no problem with it. We were going to spend the holidays at my parents', but no way now. I can't believe that they saw no problem with my sister's actions, and in essence, condoned her behavior. They told me to stop overreacting. Am I the a-hole for being mad at my sister and telling my parents I won't bring him to the house? My parents really liked him, but I have a serious problem with them now because they are defending my sister and think this is just a silly prank. C&D Border Girl says, not the a-hole. I find what she did was not only rude, but totally disrespectful to you and your boyfriend. She was basically saying she doesn't trust your judgment to pick out a mate that will be faithful to you and not cheat. If my daughter ever did that to anyone, she would be getting a rude reality check. Holidays are about relaxing and enjoying family and friends. There's no way that's going to happen as long as your sister feels justified testing your boyfriend's loyalty. Your parents obviously are not going to do anything about her behavior. Curious how she would react if tables were turned. Father Son Holy Toast says, not the a-hole. The fact that your sister harassed a person who came into your home as a guest is undefensible, and your parents are both jerks for siding with her. Also, the just a test excuse is 100% BS. Your sister was harassing your boyfriend because she wanted to, and the so-called test was a weak explanation when she determined he wasn't going to magically switch his affections to her. Maybe I'm projecting because I've known a few people like this, but she sounds like the kind of person who takes other people's relationships as a challenge and likes to boost her own ego by trying to get positive attention from other people's partners. Disastrous Nail 640 says, priceless. Was your parents' response to your sister's harassment of your boyfriend, and then they say you overreacted? Does that sound even remotely reasonable to you? I sure hope not. This behavior absolutely should not be tolerated. The fact that your parents see nothing wrong with it is, honestly, quite disturbing. Enjoy the holidays with your boyfriend's family. Not the a-hole for sure. Our second story is, am I the a-hole for admitting I got married for money instead of love and crushing my cousin's fantasy idea of love? When I was in my second year of college, I found out I was pregnant with my current husband's baby. We weren't officially dating at the time because my husband was a pretty arrogant playboy back then who only dated casually. After the initial shock and lots of discussion, we decided I would have the baby. My husband and his family were very insistent that we get married because they're strong believers in a 2-parent household, and also because my father-in-law is a well-known businessman and he thought this out-of-wedlock baby would reflect badly on him. Initially, I said no to marriage for obvious reasons, but I eventually agreed when my father-in-law offered to pay off all of my student debt and made sure I could finish my degree after I had the baby. He offered me a lot of other financial incentives, and we had a prenup that ensured I'd be okay if our marriage didn't work out. And honestly, I had little hope for a long-term relationship. My husband actually changed a lot since we got married, and our daughter was born. We've been very happily married ever since. Not many people in my family know the real reason I got married so quickly, Everyone thinks I was just madly in love and rushed into marriage. Fast forward to today, my younger cousin is 18, and she wants to drop out of school to marry her boyfriend of 2 years. Her parents are against getting married so young, but she keeps using me as an example of why it's a good idea. I wasn't going to get involved with my cousin since we aren't that close, but it came up during a family Zoom party call when my cousin was talking about how my marriage, very young and in love, worked out for me, and it would be the same for her. I blurted out, "Actually, I got married for money," and everyone got very silent. Since that confession, if you will, I received mixed reactions from my family. My cousin is devastated and said I ruined her idea of love. Now she feels being in a relationship is pointless. One of my uncles took it incredibly personally and said I was a gold digger and he felt awful for my husband and he didn't know where my mom went wrong when raising me. For context, my mom was a single mother, and seeing her financially struggle was part of the reason I agreed to get married. A few of my other relatives said that marrying for money was something I should keep to myself because it's disrespectful to my husband and our marriage. However, my cousin's mom is really happy with me because I shared the real reason I got married, and it was not just because we were madly in love and I can't live without this person. It was a financial arrangement. What do you guys think? Am I the a-hole for just being honest? Coyote says, "Not the a-hole. You told the truth, and it was what she needed to hear. Marrying for financial security isn't weird, it's sensible, and you did what was right for you and your child. I'm just glad it seems to have all worked out for you." KHC9941 says, "Not the a-hole, but the way you approached it wasn't the best. You were young, pregnant, and very limited on options. You chose well, and I would have done exactly the same if I was in your shoes. It sounds like it's worked out well and you have a solid marriage, which is wonderful. The way you phrased it on the Zoom call sounds very different though. You need to call your cousin and explain exactly what you meant and why you made that choice. Love grows, and the idea of love is never pointless. It's also very much worth pointing out to your cousin that there was financial support when you got married to help the relationship survive. Money is one of the biggest stressors in life, and being young, married, and broke is much more stressful than being young, financially secure, and married with or without a baby." Dancing Bear 888 says, "Not the a-hole. I find this story strangely sweet, as it seems that you originally got married not for the right reasons, and yet it turns out to have worked out well in the end. For me, it just goes to show that you never know, and that real life is weird and strange and messy. That said, people are going to judge, and I wouldn't worry about that too much, nor hold it against those people that judge you. It might be seen that you were really selfish because you did not marry with the hearts and arrows of romantic love, but rather for money. Not everyone in your family is going to embrace this so-called violation. I would just point out that everything was done openly in the original decision, and that things worked out. No matter how things looked starting out, in the end, your relationship with your husband is the only thing that matters." K. Peterso 100 says, "Not the a-hole. A friend of mine was in a similar situation, but without the help of a father-in-law's money. Tammy got pregnant at 16 and decided to keep the baby, and then clawed her way through undergrad and grad school with a small child in tow. She says that she doesn't recommend the same to anyone because it's extremely hard. Then her niece wanted to marry her boyfriend at 16 and have a baby because Tammy did it and everything turned out fine. Her entire family was okay with it, but Tammy was dead set against it and told her niece the truth about what her life would be like and the terrible sacrifices she would have to make, including her youth, her body, and being carefree. The niece and her entire family were deeply offended that Tammy told the truth and refused to sugarcoat anything. Telling the truth is the greatest gift you can give someone." The Teach 78 says, "I married for immigration reasons, and like you, there's a story within a story. I went through the ringer with my ex and wasn't sure I wanted to marry again. Almost 5 years and a child later, my life is beautiful. Everyone has a story, and every story is complicated. That's why love is an adventure, not the a-hole." Our third story is, "Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my daughter's wedding after she went no contact with me?" Some backstory. My wife and I paid college tuition for all 3 of our kids, 27 female, 29 female, 32 male, because we had the money and wanted to cover the costs. My older 2 kids studied computer science, while my youngest one decided to study fashion design. I wasn't really supportive about the fashion design degree at first. I tried to warn my daughter that the job prospects wouldn't be great, but she was insistent, so I paid approximately $60,000 for her to get her degree. After she graduated, she struggled to find a job in her field, and the ones she did find didn't pay well. So she came back home and asked us to help her pay for another degree. I told her we were not going to pay for more schooling and suggested that she take out a loan. This caused a lot of problems between us, and she went no contact. She ended up going to community college part-time while working as a server. Her boyfriend was supportive. We helped our 2 older kids pay for their weddings, and now, our youngest daughter recently got engaged. She started talking to us again, and we were excited about the wedding. However, she started planning for things way out of her budget that her older sister/brother were able to have at their weddings. We worried that this wedding would not be smart for her financially and decided to talk to her about it. She was under the impression that we would pay for most of it and wanted a high-end wedding similar to what her brother and sister had. My wife and I told her we were not going to drop $30,000 to pay for her wedding after she went years with no contact with us. Furthermore, our other 2 kids paid for most of their own wedding costs. We just pitched in about $5,000 for each of them. They both make good money. Our younger daughter got super angry with us and complained how it wasn't fair that her siblings got better things than she did and said we were playing favorites. Am I the a-hole for not paying for her wedding? Bring on the Coffee says, going a bit against the grain here, but this seems like a very one-sided point of view, especially while your daughter went no contact for years. So I'm going to call everyone out on this one. You, for some other reasons why your daughter supposedly had no contact with you, and your daughter for trying to rebuild the relationship for selfish reasons. Maybe try some introspection and reconcile what is left of your relationship with your daughter before you bring money into the equation. Mandria Haman says, not the a-hole. You gave her a free ride through college. She ignored your valid concerns and advice about her chosen major, then she went no contact. Now she has an elaborate wedding planned, and she wants you in her life again and expects money. You did more than most parents do for their kids. She seems entitled, and I think you had a hand in that. Chucky Finster says, question, would putting $5,000 towards her wedding be a big deal in terms of your finances? It sounds like there is a lot of mending that needs to happen in your relationship. If you want to have a relationship with your daughter, I think your offer could be to contribute the same as you did to her siblings if she goes to family therapy. From your perspective, you make her out to be entitled, and maybe she is. But you also don't elaborate on what you did or said to her to show her that you were unsupportive of her fashion degree. This whole thing reads to me like your older 2 kids are a lot different than she is, and she feels like the black sheep of the family. What you describe as being fair seems to feel like favoritism to her. We're only getting your perspective here, so everyone is siding with you. And maybe that's an accurate portrayal of the situation. But either way, it isn't helping to mend your relationship with your daughter. So I would say that if she wants fair, she can have fair. You contribute the same to her wedding as you did with your other kids because you want to work on rebuilding a relationship with her. Because you love her. So Prastada says, sorry dude, I'm not buying your story. There's no way your daughter just told you to pound sand because you wouldn't pay for another degree. Within the lines of the story, there's definitely something missing. Your older kids make bank because they are lucky enough to have gone into lucrative fields, but your youngest didn't, and I'm not getting the we supported her to help her succeed in a competitive field vibe. Do you know the damage you can do to a kid belittling her chosen profession? You probably don't remember all that you said to her, but I'm sure she remembers the times you didn't support her. She went back to school and got a job to support herself. I don't see any entitlement in that. I do see a lot of communication issues between you and her, and I think it might help to take a long, hard look at how you interacted with your daughter before you went no contact. I wish you luck mending this relationship.